in Tennessee. Ed, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. What's on your mind tonight, Ed?
Hey, how y'all doing, Mr. Baker and Brett?
I'm good. Nice to talk to you.
Okay, it's kind of going in my ear, but I'm going to go on.
Okay.
Hey, the so-called success in high school is predetermined by the kind of car the parents drive.
The success in high school is predetermined by what kind of car the parents drive. So you're discussing the socioeconomics of academic success.
Right.
Yeah. What do you
comment
think?
On that?
I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, not a level playing field. How can it? And then when you got kids with bad physical ailment, mental ailment, the public schools have to take it all.
His connections.
Ed,
they're really just at a total disadvantage. As you know, studies have shown poverty poisons the brain.
Yeah.
Physically from stress hormones from the mother.
I can talk
think about how
this
some of these people live. I mean, it's like a night. It would be a nightmare to us. Gunshots going off all through the night due to the war on drugs.
I mean, when you look at the public schools in Chicago or something like that, it's really similar to what he's talking about. I mean, that's really what happens in the real world if you look at public schools in cities like D.C. or Chicago. I mean, they really are violent and dangerous places.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean,
I'm from the Scopes Monkey Trial State, and it's almost trying to go back to that.
That was, but.
Okay, all right.
And that's not really funny.
Well, for those who don't know, the Scopes Monkey Trial was something, I think this was back in the 19-teens. I'm not sure the date, but this teacher wanted to teach students about evolution.
Okay.
And it went to the court.
Okay.
They went to the court to try and stop him from being able to do that.
Okay.
And he was lampooned as being absurd.
I mean, that happened in New Hampshire, too, right, recently? Like we were talking about earlier, they wanted to tell towns that they couldn't teach the International Baccalaureate program, right? And so someone went to the state and tried to make a law saying they can't teach that in schools in the district, that using that curriculum. So to me, that's very similar. I mean, I had a lot of friends who didn't agree with me and thought that the IB program shouldn't be in schools because it's a more global view, they were saying. But again, I think if your school is controlled by your little town and your little school board and that's your system there and that's what you have, then the little town should be able to do what they want.
Okay, well, I wouldn't be in favor of imposing it on anybody. So if something has to exist in a school, I think anybody should be able to opt out of it.
Fine.
Like,
I would be fine with that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, but back to what...
Although that's not really how it exists in the real world.
Oh, no, of course.
I mean,
it's nothing like how it exists in the real world. I'm just talking about what's right, Kate. I'm not talking about the real world.
You can't really be like, no, I just don't really want to do that math class.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be a dancer or a singer. I'm going to be a jazz singer when I grow up. So I don't need to go to that.
Yeah, that's not the real world of government school right now. Ed, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I would make the case or try to make the argument that really the public schools have done good with what they have to work with, and it was making progress, not the AYP garbage, but up until 1990s, that's when they started the crack cocaine epidemic. The bogus war on drugs escalated. You can look at the graphs and charts where it shows incarcerations. It just spikes in the 89s, 90, 92. Then it starts going back down. But, now, like I say, murder, everything's lower than it's been in 30 years, like Memphis, Tennessee.
I don't know. I still think we haven't really done well
poverty,
with the schools.
The war on drugs, they had what they call Operation Blue Crush. They just go through black neighborhoods, scoop them up, arrest them. I mean, Brett, you wouldn't believe this. I used to have all the numbers on this, but they would scoop up 100 people. Do you know how much money they would have between these 100 black people? Not even $600. Maybe 2 cars and maybe 50, rocks of crack cocaine. and they would get sentenced to 5, 10, 20 years in
10
prison.
issues now.
And then they wonder why the schools don't do good.
Well, I
mean,
I don't
it's
think
insane.
you make it sound like what do you think the schools are supposed to do?
I think they're supposed to teach. We've
They
discussed
can't
this.
do. They can do all they can do. That's it. All they can do is all they can do.
Right, but they have
can't
like
take
12,
care of
10,
mental health,
12,
physical health.
$15,000, $13,000 per student. $13,000, $14,000, $15,000,
but that's
$10,000, $12,000 per student.
Right.
I
but
would
listen
think
to
that
this.
you'd have enough to be effective.
It's not money, but listen to these little factoids. When these kids get sent to these juvenile detention centers, reform schools, or whatever they call them now, you're talking 50, 80, 100,000.
And this is where I used to work.
Right.
And that's
So
a scam.
we know more money is not. We know that doesn't equal. Look at back to my stuff. Right. There's private schools who do a better job with less money. So that's not. That's not really at all. But
let me tell
you know
you
what I think it's
private
respect
schools do better.
that's
just
missing.
Like I just said earlier, the private schools get to pick. They have people with money. They don't have to deal with mental illness. Their teeth falling out, crippled, genetic problems.
a lot of private schools have scholarships for people that can't otherwise afford to go. And there's things like the thing we have in New Hampshire, school choice programs for people
Yeah, but I
with
bet
less
it's a
needs,
small
so.
percentage.
It
If you would look at
is.
the numbers,
No,
the
you're
real
right.
numbers, it would be probably minuscule.
Well, Ed, listen, what you're saying is very valid and it's very important. I think it's often overlooked in a lot of these discussions, the socioeconomic issues that play into this. But I will tell you, I grew up in eastern New Hampshire, 15 miles from the beach, in a very wealthy area. I still live there and work there today. I work with kids who go to the best public schools in the state of New Hampshire, where it costs $17,000, $18,000, $19,000 a year, and they don't know anything either. Okay. No, well, I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. Hey, Brett, you might not have to know anything right now. And I think it's a sham to think that we can grade people on what they think. But we want them to think.
I like that.
The schools should be totally free. Look up Paul Goodman, Freedom in Learning. I guarantee you'll love it. He was openly, this doesn't have anything to do with what we just talking about, but he was openly gay in like 1940. He wrote the book, Growing Up Absurd, by Paul Goodman. It tells the absurdity of the schools based on really finances.
Well, and
because
real
the
education
poor really don't have a chance. If you think about it, there is no level playing field, and now it's even worse.
All right, Brett's
Unless
turn.
you have an exceptional mind,
it doesn't work.
Exceptional gene.
Real education is always free. And I think that one of the things that I'm trying to communicate to people is that education is a personal project, a self-directed project. If you're waiting for somebody else to educate you, you're not going to be educated. Honestly, in my opinion, and from my research, I shouldn't say in my opinion, from my research, Ed, thanks for the call. Schools do not exist. With the way I define education, schools do not exist for the purpose of educating people.
They can teach some things.
Oh, they can teach you the skills you need to be competent and obedient.
No, what if you want to really go be a mathematician?
School might be an okay place to start, but it's not going to give you the logical reasoning skills that you need to really...
If you go to a really good school.
Oh, well, we can talk about that in a couple minutes. This is School Sucks Live, the School Sucks radio show, 843-JOIN-SSP. Give us a call.